So this week's episode of Rewrite was another great episode. Now, I've heard some people, in terms of people who have played the visual novel, that say that it was a bit rushed. As for myself, I felt like the pacing was just fine. But there's two major things that really happened in this episode that kind of wowed me, but also just kind of left my mind racing. The first of which, let's talk about the City of Stone. The reason why I find the City of Stone so fascinating is we get to learn exactly what's going on with one of the signs that Kotaro has been kind of working with here. And it's interesting to see the City of Stone as this is kind of like this paradise island here, this kind of out of realm, it's out of the human world where monsters and beasts, these kind of familiars, can be made. However, there's something that's mentioned where people can stumble into these portals. And when I heard that, I was like, didn't Kotaro do something literally like that back in season 1? So I went and checked. It's in the first episode, the big hour-long episode there. I didn't watch the full thing again, but I just checked where he stumbles in, and that's where he first fights that giant beast there, and he first meets Kagari and everything like that. And I'm pretty sure that was him wandering into the City of Stone in his own way, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong there, and that could be a completely separate thing, but it does seem like back in season 1, Kotaro did stumble into the City of Stone without realizing it, because it is mentioned that there are these portals, and people can sometimes stumble into it. So it's interesting, because essentially this guy is going to be using it as kind of the afterlife. It's kind of like this artificial afterlife that when the Earth eventually hits its demise, this place can have up to like 100,000 people, though they can't have structures and buildings, so it's going to be like they're going back to the Stone Age. However, the way they're selling it is it's going to be essentially the afterlife. So it's really interesting to see this kind of paradise, that this kind of out of location, out of this world location that could home up to like 100,000 people. Now obviously it's only going to be for the rich because he's selling it off and making a shit ton of money. However, this is this like secluded thing that when the Earth hits destruction, there is a small fraction of the population that could have a life. Now it wouldn't be the life they're used to, but it's really interesting seeing that. Just when I heard that notion of there are these portals that people can wander into, and this is like this, it's like a copy of their own like kind of area there. So it's just interesting to see that, because Kotaro literally kind of stumbles into that world, if I'm not mistaken, back in season 1 when he first fights that beast. So I thought it was really interesting, and just another tie into the first season that I was like, wow, I wasn't even really thinking of that, but seeing how the City of Stone works and what it's used for here, it actually makes sense of some of the stuff that happened in season 1. So I thought that was rather fascinating. But some of the biggest stuff has to be with the kind of confession that Kotaro gives Kagari. I mean, they absolutely kiss in the episode. That kind of threw me off guard. I was like, holy shit, I didn't expect there to even be any sort of like physical contact between him or any of the girls here, because season 1 was more about the friendship aspect, but when we were on the moon row, we saw that they were just two lonely people, Moon, Kagari, and Kotaro. They're two lonely people who use each other for company and just kind of to not feel isolated, that is. So what I'm expecting is possibly Moon Kagari did something to kind of give this Kotaro, this new Kotaro, the urge to kind of act on those feelings, because obviously Moon Kagari had some feelings for Kotaro. I mean, it just felt that way to me at least, and this was set up to be the last chance. Earth can't start again. There's no way for them to restart again. This is the one chance here. This is made perfectly clear. Kotaro is being guided by Moon Kagari, and I assume that this Kotaro, because there's different timelines, some of which he ended up with Akane, you know, he ended up with all the girls in different timelines, so I'm assuming this is also Moon Kagari kind of pushing him. I mean, we didn't see a bonfire or anything that said for him to do that, but it does feel to me like those kind of memories that he made on Moon, there's something there that got left in his mind there, so he would act on that. But I did like how she's freaking out. She's literally crying. This is the first time we really see human emotions from Kagari there, where she's crying. She's going on a rampage, destroying the forest because Kotaro is selfish. He pretty much ruined it. He gave Gaia the ability to continue on, where there was this chance to kind of destroy it, where he warns, I forget her name, but the one leading Gaia there, where he warns her of this operation of pretty much going to kill Akane, and it makes sense. Like, it does make sense. Like, I agree with his actions of warning to protect those two. And Kagari asks, like, do you know these? Are these two that are very close to you? And he says, no, it's just I'm acquainted with them slightly, but because I'm acquainted with them, I can't just let them die or just be sacrificed for this. And she asks, like, if that sacrifice leads to the destruction of Earth, are you okay with that? And he says yes. And that's what triggers her, because this is the last chance. This is the only chance that they have to make humanity survive. And that just triggers her, and for good reason, but I can also completely agree with Kotaro's decision. I wouldn't be able to do it. Do you just sacrifice some people for the greater good? But it's like, when you get to that decision, when you, like, without you being in that situation, you say, absolutely we can. But when you're in that situation, because even though he really doesn't know them in this timeline, he still has some sort of connection, and he can't just sacrifice sacrifice two little girls for the greater good. And I completely understand and agree with his decision there. It may have been the wrong one, but I agree with it nonetheless. And this is why I really like this episode, because there is just a lot to it. We get a lot of information, but also just Kotaro feels human. He feels like a broken human. He makes mistakes, but also his mistakes also make sense in their own way, and that's why I really like it. I mean, not everyone's going to agree with his decision there. I mean, like, I found it kind of funny where she's all about making good memories here, and then he literally kisses her, and that's still not a good enough memory. I thought that was kind of funny in itself, but it's interesting, because I think we have 2 episodes left here, and I feel like that's as many episodes as we need to finish this up here, because it does feel like we're getting closer to the end here. I mean, sure, you could say it's a little more fast-paced here, and I'm sure there's stuff that was cut out from the visual novel that people wanted to see animated here, but as long as it gets the main message across, as long as the story is told without having to read the visual novel, it's done its justice. This is a different medium, it's going to be differently paced, so I mean, you can't expect everything that you read in the visual novel to be adapted on screen. But I thought this was a really good episode. There definitely was some animation issues here or there. This wasn't the best visually looking episode. I mean, the past couple weeks were far superior, though even with the animation issues, I still thought it was a really good episode. Sadly, there wasn't some really good use of OST tracks like last week, but overall, this was a good episode. I'm really excited to see what happens from here. I just thought the City of Stone content, just learning about the person that Kotaro went to school with, who then ended up quitting Guardian and then ended up joining Martel, you know, we get to see a bit more with her. Just overall, I thought it was a really good episode. There was a lot of content here, but a lot of interesting content, and that kiss was just completely unexpected. But I'd be interested here. What did everyone think of this episode? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Do you think it was just okay? Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. Before you leave, hit that like button to show your support. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe. So until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.